I'm tightening this thing because last time I did not tighten it. It flew apart in my hands. But anyway, I think we're good now. Yeah, I think so. Intro. Take one. How's it going, everybody? Steve here, and tonight we're going to be talking about the film Army of the Dead, directed by Zack Snyder and starring Dave Bautista, Ella Purnell, Tig Notaro, and many others. After a zombie outbreak takes over Las Vegas and effectively quarantines the city, a group of mercenaries attempts to break in to pull off a very audacious heist. Army of the Dead recently came out in theaters and then dropped on Netflix, and even though I love going to the theater, I'm not totally ready to go back yet after COVID and during COVID and the pandemic, so I waited for it to drop on Netflix. Sure, I went to see Tenet in the movie theater last year, but I wasn't watching this movie expecting something like Tenet. I expected it to be a decent movie, but a turn-off-your-brain type of movie. And don't get me wrong, I like turn-off-your-brain movies every great now and then. Another thing to keep in mind is that this is directed by Zack Snyder. And Zack Snyder, in my opinion, has a decent track record, especially with the Snyder Cut of the Justice League film, and also with his work on the 2003, 2004? I'm actually forgetting the year. The Zack Snyder remake of Dawn of the Dead. Now, would I classify this as a turn-off-your-brain type of movie? Yeah, kind of, but it's definitely not as dumb as a lot of turn-off-your-brain movies are. And it does a really good job of telling its story. Overall, I really enjoyed myself. And here's why. For one thing, the performances in the movie are actually pretty strong. Particularly Dave Bautista. I've never thought that Dave Bautista is a bad actor in any shape of the word. I actually think he's a pretty good actor. But this movie surprisingly gives him a lot of opportunities to show what kind of range he has, and actually gives a pretty dramatic performance. And I have to say that the rest of the cast does a really good job as well. I would not say anybody is bad, but one particular standout, and one thing that I know everybody is going to want me to talk about, is Tig Notaro. So I'm not going to lie, a lot of people probably knew this going into the movie, but I had no freaking idea. She was digitally added into the film, and maybe I'm the dumb one in the room. I had no freaking idea until I read it on the trivia page on the IMDb after watching the film. My mind was blown by this. So when they were originally shooting, there was another actor in the role of this character that Tig Notaro was playing, Chris D'Elia. I actually don't think I've ever heard his name said out loud, and now I'm gonna feel like an idiot if I'm pronouncing it wrong. But anyway, this guy who was originally cast in the part and filmed all of his scenes with the rest of the cast ended up having some pretty gnarly allegations against him after filming Wrapped. And let's just say that, without going into detail of what those allegations are, if they are true, there's some pretty shitty human being type of allegations. So Zack Snyder and the studio decided that they would replace him with Tig Notaro. And Tig Notaro filmed all of their scenes by herself. They used green screen and masking and compositing and a bunch of other techniques to just digitally add her into the film with all the other actors. I absolutely had no idea and could not tell. They did an amazing job adding her in, and she did an absolutely amazing job pretending like she was actually having conversations with all these other actors and interacting with them in these scenes. One thing I will say straight up is that this film might scare some people. It did not scare me in the slightest. It gave me kind of an action movie feel and kind of a thriller type of feel, but it did not scare me in the slightest. This movie is not scary compared to Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake. But that's not really the feeling that they were going for. And honestly, it's a pretty tightly wound story, and I did like the story. I really liked how all of these characters interacted with each other, the backstories that come up, especially with Dave Bautista's character. There are some times where it seems like they're going for kind of a social commentary message, and that doesn't always gel very well, and sometimes it feels a little overwrought, but it still comes across decently. And another thing that I really loved about the film is its creative portrayal of the zombies. You've got the standard, original George A. Romero ones that kind of just shuffle and shamble around and will eat you if you can't run. But they've also got the super fast ones that will chase after you and there's no way you can outrun them either. But there's also this weird hierarchy to them. Like, there are ones that are much faster and stronger and smarter than the others, and they actually have some semblance of emotion. And underneath them are the shamblers who are kind of just walking around doing nothing, and there's something wrong with you if you can't get away from them. Now, is this the first type of movie like this that's taken this approach? No, but I really liked seeing it taken in this film. It added a nice layer that I did not expect in Army of the Dead. But the film's biggest weakness that I have to admit right off the bat, and pretty much everyone has called out, is this movie is pretty overlong. It's almost 2.5 hours long, and while a decent amount of it is paced really well, there is some very sluggishly slow pacing peppered throughout the film. I feel like if they would have shaved like 15 or 20 minutes off the runtime, it would have been a lot better. But it doesn't make the movie bad. The movie is still really good, especially considering it's Army of the Dead. And that's the thing that I really liked overall about this movie. I expected a total turn off your brain movie, and maybe that's why I felt like I got more out of it than I expected, but even though it's not anything absolutely groundbreaking in terms of story and characters and plot and stuff like that, it's way more than I expected going in, and pretty much all of it, with some minor exceptions about in which ways certain characters go and, you know, certain things that happen to them in the film, which I won't get into, this is going to be spoiler-free. Except for those minor things that happen with some of the characters, I genuinely liked a lot of the directions that the movie went in. Overall, if you like zombie movies or action movies or anything of that kind, and you're in the mood for a turn-off-your-brain movie that isn't way too far on the turn-off-your-brain side, and if you have 2.5 hours to spare, I definitely recommend checking this one out. It is in theaters, and it's also just been released on Netflix. So, if you have the chance to check it out, definitely do it. But anyway, that's it for this video. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. It really helps out with the YouTube algorithm and helps people who don't know about my channel but would like to see content like this find my channel easier. And if you're new here and you want to see more of what I do, feel free to hit the subscribe button and click on the bell icon if you actually want to be notified when I post a new video. And with that, have a good night and I'll see you later.